Over at DC Comics, the publisher is now in the middle of their Night Terrors storyline. This is set to be a 2-month event in which the DC Universe is ensnared to some of their worst nightmares. Over in Night Terrors First Blood, we got to see some of the first inciting incidents over for the story, as Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were exposed to one of their earliest foes over in the Hall of Justice, leading to a choice confrontation over with the character of Deadman. My name is Araco Braddock, and today let's go ahead and explore how Bruce Wayne, Batman, is able to respond to some of the nightmares from insomnia over in Batman Night Terrors issue number 1. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and introduce Batman Night Terrors over with DC Comics solicitation text for the issue. Ever since becoming Batman, Bruce Wayne has been a creature of the night. He transformed himself into a symbol that gave the criminals of Gotham nightmares. But now, trapped in the nightmare realm, Bruce is stalked by the horror he's created. Can he escape before his own nightmares pull him deeper into the darkness? I want to introduce our creative team on Night Terrors Batman number 1. This series is written over from Joshua Williamson, featuring art from Guillem March, colors from Tomeu Morey, and letters over from Troy Peteri. And the cover from the issue is coming directly over from Guillem March and Tomeu Morey. Here's a look at March and Morey's really interesting cover for Night Terrors Batman that I think perfectly sets up some of the context of the issue as Bruce is kind of navigating his nightmares and also kind of reimagining his deadly origin sequence as well. Really appreciate also how March has illustrated kind of Batman behind Bruce to show the kind of gravity over in the situation as well. I want to extend a big thank you over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this preview for Night Terrors Batman so quickly, and I want to spend just a few moments focusing in over on this storyline. So I was really interested to see how Guillem March was going to contribute artwork over to Night Terrors Batman. I think the Night Terrors First Blood series featured some really wonderful artwork from Howard Porter that played up some of the expressionism and subversive nature of his art. And I'm really happy to report here that Guillem March brings a lot of that same context over to kind of his line in the series. There's always something kind of dire and sinister about several of the expressions of characters like Alfred here. Even though Alfred is trying to help Bruce, I think March does a great job pulling on that tension by his interesting expression over with the character. We also get pages like this one that we have up on the screen featuring super dynamic page composition over from March. March has always been among one of my favorite artists over at DC Comics. When Bruce is officially sort of plunged into his nightmares, I think this issue does a great job kind of pulling on some different contexts over for Guillem March's art and kind of just changing the nature of the storyline ever so slightly here. I also really appreciate the way that March renders the expressions over for the young Bruce, and I think that the art really helps capture the sense of expression that Joshua Williamson is trying to evoke over for the script in the issue. I think this is also going to be a great place to kind of change gears a little bit and to talk about the script over in this storyline as well. The opening sequence featuring Bruce kind of looking to capitalize on some of his nightmares before some of his foes can is a really intriguing way to start off the narrative outside of the dreamscape over for Bruce. But I think when we switch gears and head into that storyline that was first established over in Night Terrors First Blood, we get a really intriguing look at what Bruce's nightmares look like. Also, I really appreciate the way that the subplot with Deadman was kind of weaved into some of the writing over in this storyline. Also, this issue does a great job kind of recontextualizing Insomnia to make him look like a really fearful villain who could potentially pose something interesting to the DC universe past this storyline. I think this issue has a sort of great emphasis on horror that is exposed the deeper you're able to get over into the narrative. And also, I really appreciated how Joshua Williamson was sort of able to utilize some of the context he spent over in this opening story to kind of inform the very final pages over in the issue as well. I think watching Bruce react to the trial that he's set to go through over on the final pages of Batman Night Terrors in the next issue is going to be a really fascinating way to kind of see this storyline continue. I want to quickly switch gears over to the second story in Night Terror's Batman. This one is called Sweet Dreams, written by Joshua Williamson, featuring art from David Lafuente and colors from Rex Lokus, with letters from Troy Peteri. So in this Damian story, this was also another kind of piece of the narrative that I felt actually helps advance the storyline in Night Terrors. This issue really utilizes some of the continuity built up in the Free Comic Book Day issue and shows that I think Damian Wayne, Robin, is set to kind of break up the monotony that we're maybe going to experience in some of the other stories, and the fact that he's not sort of plunged into his dream sequence because he's already been there in the storyline. So it's going to be really fascinating to kind of pick up on where Damian is headed over in this story. Really appreciated the artwork in David Lafuente, and I think that it causes such a big contrast over between Guillem March, but I think it really adds something to this story and kind of does a good job evening out the tone for Night Terror's Batman to make sure that it doesn't look too harrowing or dangerous for some of our characters. The only real criticism that I want to apply over to this second story in the issue is that I wish it was a little bit more clear, especially in the ending sequence. When I read back and checked in on the issue the second time, it was a little bit more clear to me, but I think some of these endings over from Joshua Williamson on these Night Terrors issues have been a little bit abrupt, and it's really needed some other subsequent issues to kind of pick up the pieces and give readers a little bit more context behind the plot. Overall, though, I would say I'm really happy with where Lafuente as well as Williamson leave off with Damian at the end of this sequence here. So overall here at the end of the day, I think Night Terror's Batman delivers great narratives over for Batman and Robin in the context of Night Terrors. I really love the fact that this series actually features some storylines for these characters outside of the kind of Night Terrors, nightmare storylines, as both, Bruce and Damian get just a few moments in this series outside of the context of their nightmares to really show how they're going to react to and respond to the character of Insomnia. I want to know from you, what are some of your thoughts over on Batman Night Terrors? Did you enjoy this issue as much as I did? Let me know down in the comments below. What were some of your thoughts over on Guillem March and David Lafuente's contributions over to this issue as well? Really think both artists captured an intriguing and different aspect of this issue as well. Thank you so much for coming to check out our video, and we'll be back to cover everything Batman, Night Terrors, and DC Comics. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.